Well, let's go straight to the top story this evening. The Supreme Court has dismissed all writ petitions seeking a probe into the multi-billion-dollar Rafale deal. In its verdict, the three-judge bench, led by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi, said, and I quote, "There was no occasion to really doubt the procurement process." On the issue of pricing, the Apex Court has said that the government had claimed there was a commercial advantage in the purchase of 36 Rafale aircraft. However, the court has refrained from getting into the pricing details, saying that it was not its job to do so. The court also dealt with the issue of offsets and has said that it did not find any substantial material on record to show that this was a case, and I quote again, of commercial favoritism to any party by the government. The court went on to say that it will not intervene in the matter, as perception of individuals cannot be the basis of a fishing and roving inquiry by the court. It concluded the verdict by adding, and I quote, "We, however, make it clear that our views as above are primarily from the standpoint of the exercise of the jurisdiction under Article 32 of the Constitution," unquote. Ashmit Kumar, who's been tracking this case since day one, joins us now. Ashmit, take us through the fine print of the judgment. Explain the key observations for us, especially the conclusion of the Supreme Court's 29-page order.
But as far as Article 32 is concerned, it essentially says that a citizen whose personal rights, whose fundamental rights have been aggrieved, can move the Apex Court directly. Now, this also importantly is the PIL jurisdiction. PILs are filed under Article 32. However, at the very outset, the Apex Court has held that even under Article 32, this is not a fit case for instituting a probe. This is not a fit case for judicial scrutiny. That as far as defense procurement is concerned, given that it concerns national security, a different degree of judicial scrutiny needs to be levied, and that this is not a fit case essentially for judicial scrutiny. Now, going forward, there are three aspects that the Apex Court order dwells on. One is the decision-making process, the second is pricing, and the third is the choice of the Indian offset partner. With respect to the decision-making process, the Apex Court essentially held that no occasion has been given for doubting the process as far as this particular transaction is concerned. Also going on to say that as far as there might have been minor deviations, but broadly it appears that the procedures have been followed, that as of right now there is an urgent need felt by the Indian Armed Forces, and that neither the need nor the quality of the aircraft is currently in question. On the question of pricing, the Apex Court observes that this is again not the court's job to scrutinize this transaction, and that details about national security need to be kept under wraps. And finally, on the question of the Indian offset partner, here the Apex Court essentially says that mere press interviews cannot be grounds for seeking a judicial probe or judicial scrutiny, and that of course was a veiled reference to the charges that had been forwarded by Francois Hollande, the former president of France. Also going on to say that the Indian government, it appears, has no role to play, and from the conduct and from the evidence that has been brought on record, there's nothing to suggest that the government was favouring a certain side. So with those observations, the Apex Court has dismissed those four PILs, refused the prayer for instituting a probe, and of course, in a manner of speaking, also contributing to the political discourse. This is, after all, a political issue, and in an election season, is bound to be volatile. Back to you.
कोई प्राइस नेगोशिएशन कमेटी नहीं थी, कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नेगोशिएशन कमेटी नहीं थी, कोई डिफेंस एक्विजिशन काउंसिल नहीं थी, कोई कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑन सिक्योरिटी नहीं थी। ये क्या फिक्शन राइटिंग चल रही थी राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा के साथ समझौता करने के लिए? दिस वाज फिक्शन राइटिंग which was compromising with national security. If honest deals in the interest of national security and the commercial interest of India are brought under a cloud, our civil servants and officials of our forces in future will think 10 times before going ahead with such exercises in larger national interest. And those who created and manufactured this falsehood have hurt India's larger security interests as a country.
UPA government's matrix for obtaining the total required number of fighter jets was that they will bring in 18 and then manufacture the rest here. They hadn't concluded either. But what we've done here, because of additional time being lost, instead of one squadron, which is 18, we've readily, in flyaway condition, bought 2 squadrons, which is why it is 36. But the rest will be produced as per a strategic partnership program for which the RFI has already been issued. So we have not forgotten the rest. For the full capability of Air Force, that side of the work is already ongoing.
राफेल हवाई जहाज के प्राइसिंग डिटेल्स हैं, कीमत के डिटेल्स हैं, उनको कॉम्पिटेंट ऑडिटर जनरल की रिपोर्ट में लिखा गया है और वो जो रिपोर्ट है पब्लिक अकाउंट्स कमेटी, जो पार्लियामेंट की कमेटी है, उसके साथ शेयर किया गया है। ये भाइयों और बहनों जजमेंट का फाउंडेशन है। अब मेरे सामने खारगे जी बैठे हैं और खारगे जी पीएसी कमेटी के चेयरमैन हैं पार्लियामेंट में, और आप लोग खारगे जी से सीधा पूछ लीजिए क्या सीएजी रिपोर्ट पीएसी कमेटी में आई, नहीं आई, पार्लियामेंट में रखी गई? और इन्होंने जो पीएसी के चेयरमैन हैं, इन्होंने सीएजी रिपोर्ट अपनी जिंदगी में देखी है, हाँ या ना? पूछ लीजिए। अब सरकार को हमें यह समझाना है कि ये जो सीएजी रिपोर्ट ये है कहां है, हमें भी दिखा दें, और पीएससी के जो चेयरमैन हैं खारगे जी उनको भी दिखा दें, या शायद कोई और पीएससी चल रही है, किसी और पार्लियामेंट में चल रही है, पता नहीं फ्रांस की पार्लियामेंट में चल रही है, कहीं और चल रही, मुझे नहीं मालूम।
Well, that's Rahul Gandhi picking up on that issue of the CAG report. Remember, on page 21 of the Supreme Court's order, it says the pricing details have, however, been shared with the Controller and Auditor General, and the CAG's report has been examined by the Public Accounts Committee. Only a redacted portion of the report was placed before Parliament and is in the public domain. This is as per the order. That's the issue that the Congress party is taking up. The BJP, of course, is saying that the Congress has now need to apologize to the country for the conspiracy theories that it has floated. Whether the petitioners in this matter, and it's not the Congress party, but people like Prashant Bhushan or ML Sharma, move the Supreme Court seeking a clarification, we don't know. But that is expected to be one of the issues that will be taken up. The big political headline this evening, the suspense over the next Chief Minister of Rajasthan is finally over. The Congress leadership has decided to let Ashok Gehlot pilot the state's government for the next 5 years, pun intended. Gehlot will take over the Chief Minister's mantle for the third time. However, the President of the Rajasthan Congress, Sachin Pilot, will also get a seat in the cockpit. He's been appointed the Deputy Chief Minister. The swearing-in ceremony will take place on Monday.
आम जनता में बहुत उत्साह है। हम सबके आभारी हैं कि उन्होंने इस चुनाव के अंदर एक अवसर दिया कांग्रेस को पुनः, और हमारा प्रयास रहेगा कैसे हम लोग सुशासन दे सके वहाँ पर।
क्योंकि सर ये देखा जा रहा था कि समर्थक जो है कहीं ना कहीं आपस में जो है नाखुश थे, क्योंकि मुख्यमंत्री का जो चेहरा है वो हर समर्थक चाह रहा था कि उनका नेता हो।
यदि चुनाव के वक्त में अति उत्साह में कुछ वर्कर नारे भी लगाते करते हैं, वो बुरा नहीं मानना चाहिए।
लेकिन आपको लगता है कि चीजें दुरुस्त होंगी?
आराम से सबने मिलकर तय किया है। फैसले राहुल जी ने सबसे बात करके सबकी राय से फैसले किए हैं और सब मिलकर चलेंगे, हम लोग को दिक्कत नहीं।
राजस्थान, छत्तीसगढ़, मध्य प्रदेश, ये तीनों चुनाव इस देश की राजनीति को बदलने वाले चुनाव थे, और मैं समझता हूं कि हम लोगों को जो जिम्मेदारी दी है इस प्रदेश में, राजस्थान में प्रगति, शांति, भाईचारा, नौजवानों के लिए अवसर, किसानों को आर्थिक संकट से मुक्ति, इन तमाम मुद्दों पर जनता ने मोहर लगाई है। और ये तीनों राज्यों में जो परिणाम आए हैं ये देश को संतोष देने वाले परिणाम हैं। बहुत से लोग जो आशावान थे और ऐसे लोग जो आशा खो चुके थे, दोनों में परिवर्तन आया है। लोगों को अब उम्मीद है कि 2019 के अंदर बहुत बेहतर बहुमत लेकर कांग्रेस और यूपीए केंद्र में सरकार बनाएगी।
Well, that's Sachin Pilot, Deputy Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot taking on the mantle of Chief Minister of Rajasthan. The other big story that we're tracking tonight, Shaktikanta Das, RBI's new governor, chairing his first board meeting today. The Reserve Bank board met in Mumbai for the second time in less than a month, and for the first time since Urjit Patel's unexpected resignation earlier this month. The board discussed some issues which have created friction of sorts between the RBI and the centre in the recent past. Ritu Singh, who covered that closed-door meeting, joins us now. Ritu, so at the end of it, it's a short one-paragraph release that's coming from the Reserve Bank of India. What was discussed finally, and what has been deferred to the next meeting?
Well, it was definitely a much shorter meeting compared to what we saw on the 19th of November. So what the board did take up was the governance structure of the Reserve Bank of India. But the board has decided that that matter requires more examination, and therefore no decision was taken per se. Do remember, the government has been clamoring for more powers of the RBI board to have a say in the decision making, which has so far been opposed by the Reserve Bank of India officials. Now, of course, the other important matters that the board deliberated on were the global global and domestic economic environment. They said they deliberated on currency management, on credit delivery as well as liquidity in the system. But nothing really was said on the other contentious issues of prompt corrective action norms or the capital framework of the Reserve Bank of India. On the latter, of course, in the last board meeting, it was decided that a committee would be set up to look into the capital framework, but that the composition of that committee first has to be decided by the government and RBI together before any further debate can be held on the matter. And secondly, on the prompt corrective action norms, we understand, as we had reported earlier as well, the Board for Financial Supervision, which was tasked with examining the PCA framework, is yet to get back to the board with its report on the matter, and therefore the board could not really take any decision as far as any relaxation, if at all, on the prompt corrective action norms is concerned. Largely, to sum up, it looks like Shaktikanta Das in his first board meeting as the Reserve Bank of India governor has really stayed away from taking any contentious decisions.
Brings in his characteristic conciliatory approach. So he was very much there. He gave chance to everyone to speak. In fact, he asked everyone, which I think is absolutely democratic in terms of getting everyone along. So that was very widely appreciated in the board. Everybody enjoyed interacting and was heard. We discussed as to what are the lines within which the board functions, what are the contours of that action. So that is still to be concluded. We had some discussions, but as I'm telling you, and as the press brief from the RBI also mentions, we haven't gone beyond that point.
To think that every single issue can be resolved by one view would not be correct. But I think the basic difference between a central bank being directed arbitrarily by a political government versus one which is credible is to have credible professional arguments. I don't know whether on every issue that will be true, but I think some of these issues are resolvable by professional argument and judgment.
It's a relief that we had a short board meeting, 5 hours shorter than the last time, probably a sign of the changing times and maybe a more conciliatory board. This whole scepter of the board becoming more activist and the government getting more activist in terms of directing the RBI to do things. If you recollect, the note after the previous board meeting distinctly had sections saying the board directs the RBI to do the following. I think that's a bad genie which has been let out of the bottle. We have to put it back. Yes, of course, RBI needs to be accountable and we need to have a lot of scrutiny on things that RBI has done. But I'm not sure, in fact, I'm pretty sure that the government is not the right body to direct the RBI to do things.
Well, the first meeting, no decisions being taken. Let's see which way the wind blows. Raghuram Rajan, the former RBI governor, feels Modi government needs to do more to maintain macroeconomic stability and fiscal prudence. Rajan was speaking at an event held to release a report titled An Economic Strategy for India, which outlines an economic agenda for the country for the next 5 years. Rajan highlighted that India should be growing at a faster rate. That's not all. He also claimed that loan waivers for farmers actually go to the best connected rather than the poorest. He went on to say that he had written a letter to the Election Commissioner seeking that loan waivers be taken off the table. Listen in.
Clearly, more needs to be done on macro stability, on the fiscal deficit. There are proposals in the paper for how we can focus on that. We absolutely need to enhance growth beyond the 7%. Obviously, there's a lot of back and forth on what the true growth numbers are, but whatever they are, they're not enough. I've said forever, even written a note, a letter to the Election Commissioner saying these should be taken off the table. I mean, certainly there is reason to think about farm distress, but the question of whether the flows to farmers is best affected by waiving loans, after all, there's only a subset of farmers who get those loans, and so it often goes to the best connected rather than the most poorly off. And second, it obviously creates enormous problems for the fiscal of the state once those waivers are done. And I think unfortunately, it inhibits investment down the line. Set of policies that we recommend is about how to make agriculture itself a vibrant industry as opposed to an industry which needs to be propped up through transfers. And I think our farmers deserve no less, that we need to create the environment in which they can be a vibrant force. And I would say more resources are definitely needed. Whether loan waivers are the best, I think, is highly questionable.
Well, that's Raghuram Rajan, part of the Chicago Booth report presenting an outline for India's economic growth over the next 5 years. It's time now for the Supreme Court. After Rafale today, it has put the 4,000 crore rupee sale of Fortis Healthcare to Malaysia-based IHH on hold. The matter pertains to Daiichi Sankyo's contempt plea against Malvinder and Shivinder Singh, where the two brothers have failed to pay the Japanese drug maker as ordered by the Delhi High Court. Fortis Healthcare shares tanked on the back of that news. Ashmit back with us. Ashmit, bring us up to speed, but what transpired here?
Well, the long-drawn battle between Daiichi and the Singh brothers appears to have claimed yet another victim, this time in the form of the Fortis IHH deal. Now, just the facts of the case. Daiichi had moved a contempt application before the apex court. Their concern essentially is that in operation was a Supreme Court order which clearly told the Singh brothers that on the unencumbered shares that they have via their holding companies of Fortis Healthcare, no fresh encumbrances can be created. That order, Daiichi claimed today, has been violated, that they had about 23 lakh shares, of which about 12 lakh shares there are 12 lakh shares on which encumbrances have been created, and this per se was a violation of the apex court orders. Now, on the back of that, the apex court has seen it fit as of this stage to grant interim protection to Daiichi, and it has done so by staying the Fortis IHH deal. Now, it is not a termination order, it is only a status quo order. That status quo needs to be maintained, but what that effectively does is that it calls into question the open offer that was slated for later this month, on 18th of December to be specific. So the impact essentially will be felt by the minority shareholders. Now, as far as the way forward is concerned, keep in mind that Fortis, throughout the hearings in the Delhi High Court, has been arguing that they have little or no connection with the Singh brothers. They are not on the board, neither are their nominees, and their shareholding in Fortis Healthcare is very limited. So once, given that the notice has been issued, Fortis as well as the minority shareholders are expected to argue before the apex court to lift this entire transaction, to lift the stay on this entire transaction, but that's for a later date. For now, the Fortis IHH deal it has a stay, and importantly has been issued on this entire transaction.
Ashmit, thanks very much for joining us with that. Global news. In what appears to be the first signs of easing trade tensions, China has suspended additional tariffs on 211 U.S. autos and auto parts. In a statement released earlier today, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has expressed confidence that both the U.S. and China will now look at eliminating all tariff increases. Following this development, Tesla has slashed prices of its cars in China by almost $15,000. CNBC's Eunice Yoon files this report from Beijing.
The way that it breaks down is that the 25% tariff is going to be lifted on 144 items, and then 5% tariff is going to be lifted on another 67. And the Finance Ministry posted an explanation of its decision on its website, saying, "We hope the two sides, the U.S. and China, of course, will intensify negotiations towards eliminating all tariff increases." So immediately after that, Tesla announced that it's going to be cutting prices on certain models in China, the Model S and the Model X, both by about $15,000 for the Model S and about $9,000 for the Model X. And Tesla is one of the few American car makers that has its cars imported into China as whole vehicles. So it would be one of the main beneficiaries of this decision. The backdrop of all this is that the economic figures that came out for November were pretty disappointing. A lot of people were focusing on the retail sales numbers and the industrial output figures, which missed expectations. The retail sales figures came in at the weakest level since 2003. The industrial output expanded the least in nearly 3 years. Fixed asset investment looked better, but that's partially because the numbers early in the year were so weak. So the Statistics Bureau put out a statement saying that so far the impact from the trade war was minimal, but the Bureau does expect greater external uncertainties in 2019. And that's just raised a lot of questions as to what the policymakers here will do next. What can they do next? The central bank governor, Yi Gang, yesterday had said that monetary policy will remain loose, but all eyes are on this major policy-setting meeting that happens next week. It happens every year, and what the leadership does is that they map out their plans for 2019. So there's just been a lot of speculation as to what the policymakers will be able to do, since they've said that they do want to support the economy with stimulus, but at the same time they're worried about the dangers of rising debt. So they have been using a lot of targeted measures so far. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure on these policymakers with the clock ticking down on the tariff truce. Guys?
Well, let's hope the breakthrough there builds momentum. Thanks very much, Yunus, for joining us. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of What's Hot. Thanks very much for watching. The markets took a breather after rallying for the last 2 days. The Nifty holding the 10,800 mark. The Sensex, though, gave up 36,000. Taking stock takes the week's market action forward. We'll see you in 30 minutes on India Business Hour.